I was afraid straight away because it was so close, the volcano, to the main island where we are. We expected that there will be a tsunami at that time. The radio station, it's about 380 meters from the ocean. When we were driving towards the waterfront, down here to the station, a lot of vehicles are coming inland, starting to evacuate. Straight away after the tsunami, we could use our mobile phones locally, but in terms of international communication, it was all cut off. We managed to broadcast throughout the night. We were the only radio that was on at that night. Next day, it was all black, covered with the ash. We allow people to talk on air at that time just to make sure that everyone is okay. The families, they were very concerned about the situation, not knowing how these people, along the waterfront are, and even their relatives on the outer islands. We were trying to reconnect some of the families. They were calling and tell us. Two of our children, they went on a picnic to the western side of the island. They haven't heard from them. So once they hang up the phone, there was someone else called just to inform they are here, well and safe with us. It's like comforting families and also the people of Tonga.
I was posted to Tonga as the maritime surveillance advisor to the Tongan Royal Navy from January 2020 until July 2022. I first met Viola Ulakai through her husband, Captain Sione Ulakai. He's Deputy Chief of Defence Staff for His Majesty's Armed Forces. Viola Ulakai is a phenomenal woman. She was the voice of the Hunga Tonga response. I think that her role was pivotal in making sure that people felt safe, secure and comforted in a really, really difficult time.
We were trying to talk to the public. Not only that, but also to authorities like the Minister of Health. He was talking to the public, giving advice to them because the water tank, it was already covered with the ash.
I had one of the few working satellite phones in Tonga. On the Sunday, once that we had a clear sky, I was able to call the Tongan Royal Navy boats. They sailed as the first wave was hitting, which I just can't believe that amount of bravery to be able to do that is phenomenal. That night they saved 48 people. As a boat went to each island, they would report back on the extent of the damage to infrastructure and buildings and how many personnel, how many injuries, how many casualties, how many fatalities. As they were doing that, they were dropping off water and some supplies.
Virita ba alanga voya. Ai ko mau to ko mau tu pe na mau lai ni ko ne mau no pe mata tai ka ko. Ai ga ba ko fo pe ma ka mi ta ngo fu pe mi ta ko u fa le na no lai ni. Ai si o mai ki ta ke fasi mai pe au. Fasi mai pe au, lo ki fasi mai pe au, fasi mai o ba mai ni lai ni. To ton ki ha ngatai. How ever Kaila, Mari, Fanau, I Kato, I fungi, Kauleka, and Naule, and I hen and now Yakato.
Tamau, Feng, I pay tap from Unga, Kakaki Olunga, Tamau, no for Pelcato, Kimoonga, Poko, ya, Peke, Ahonigi, Mau Tango to Peo, he I pay more 5 pay lot to 5 fake out Ospama, no for I pay out here. Toki au ke aho moni te mau hifole ma tala ngwange tamagi tango kai ke to ya hafare tu I mango holo koto.
So the entire of Mango Island was evacuated back to Tongatapu. And when that vessel came in, it was just on dusk. It was very still. There was no wind, and you could hear, as the boat approached, you could hear the singing. The people of Mango were singing hymns of praise and thanks that they had made it. And as each person got off that boat, every member of cabinet hugged them. Every single human that got off that boat. And they got off with nothing. And to see that love, that gratitude, that resilience will always stick with me.
The nature of the disaster, a volcanic eruption, and there comes a tsunami, and then the spread of COVID-19, it was too much. But then, with the courage that we have to face it.
At the time of the Tonga-Hunga volcanic eruption, we had no confirmed cases of COVID, and they did not want to introduce another risk on top of what they already had. I was responsible for liaising and coordinating with all Tonga's international partners. So my goal in managing the risk was to make it as contactless as possible. So, for example, each nation was expected to bring their own people ashore onto the wharf. It was 72 hours for the goods to sit there before it was distributed. There were challenges in terms of getting it to the right people, and that's where Viola became so important in her role, was to make sure that she got the information out there to when and where things would be distributed. Hey, how you going?
Michaela, her nature is really like a real Tongan. She was assigned to work with those naval ships that brought all those stuff to Tonga. So she liaised with them and she advised us.
And one of the things we did was to do a blanket COVID test of all staff and all personnel. And it was during that testing that 2 people tested positive to COVID.
It was really hard for us to manage that because a lot of our colleagues, they got the COVID-19. And we have to make sure that there still be someone here to go on air. But then I think we were lucky because Tonga had enough time to take the vaccination. All those catastrophes, for us here in Tonga, we're still trying to recover. But then at the same time, we've managed to handle it. We've got to be resilient.